ladies and gentlemen, the most dangerous media outlet the globalists have ever faced. There's a reason they're trying to destroy us, and it's because we have been revealing their plans for years, and now as they put these plans into fruition, it's incumbent on them to make sure we're not allowed to spread the truth anymore. But we're going to, regardless of how they feel, as long as you support us at InfoWarsStore.com. But something is happening right now. It is the World Government Forum, World Government Summit 2022, and they're just going full mask off for this summit. Just full-on world government. It's coming. They're going to use the financial, technocratic, biosecurity state to enslave everyone, and they're using their control of supply lines to force people into compliance. That's what this is all about. All of these shortages are manufactured to bring about rationing, in which your very ability to get food to eat will be determined by your loyalty to a bunch of unelected billionaires from other countries and their ridiculous anti-human dictates. So that's what they're announcing now. That's what they're telling you is true. That's what these people are coming together and discussing. We have video of it. We'll play it right now. And again, we're entering into this strange phase where everybody recognizes now that these conspiracies go on. It used to be that Alex Jones would say, hey, these people are getting together and planning things, and they're orchestrating world events to benefit themselves. And everybody said, you're crazy. That doesn't happen. Well, now everybody knows it happens. Now everybody is perfectly aware that these people get together and start to orchestrate events, and they plan how they'll all work and operate in lockstep. They just think it's for their own good for some reason. They know it goes on. They see it happening. They hear them announce it, and they think, oh, good. The billionaires will take care of us. The corrupt, out of touch, super class that live on yachts, they care about us, and they're really worried about all of the destruction that they're causing. I mean, how naive can you be? What a sucker people are to fall for this when they're just blatantly telling you what they're doing. So without further ado, let's first go to a video that we played yesterday, but this was first speech on day one of the World Government Summit. It took them less than 10 seconds to reveal what their true intention is. Clip number 13, day one, speech one of the World Government Summit. Here it is.
Of this session, are we ready for a new world order?
That's the question that they're asking. That is the title of the current event going on. Are we ready for a new world order? Well, I'm not, but apparently they are. And they're very open about what their intentions are. As this woman with a weird name, what is her name again? Pippa Malmgren. Dr. Pippa Malmgren, an American economist who served as special advisor on economic policy to President George W. Bush. Genius, right? Totally not corrupt genius. George W. Bush employed this woman. And now here she is, the World Government Summit 2022, mask off, explaining exactly how they will use the levers of control that they are in charge of to force you to comply with their tyrannical dictates. Clip number 33.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
Are we ready for a new world order? And again, there, it's just she's saying all the same things that Alex Jones has said for 10 years. It's just where Alex Jones is warning you against the tyrannical possibilities of a world order that is completely unmoored from responsibility to its citizens. They have no, like the citizens have no ability to vote for, have a say in the business of this supranational state. But it'll be run on a digital currency that tracks your every move, your every purchase, and determines whether or not you're able to do anything with the new social credit score. So he's saying all the same things, or she is saying all the same things that Alex Jones has said for 10 years. She's just saying it as if it's a good thing, as if you're supposed to go along with this, talking about human rights with a bunch of guys from Saudi Arabia. That's how little sense all of this makes, but it doesn't have to make sense. It has to give them power, and that's what they're after, and that's what they're going to get. The Last Refuge 2 on Twitter has a pretty long thread about old Dr. Pippa. Dr. Pippa, an American economist who served as special advisor on economic policy to George W. Bush. Her father, Harold Malmgren, served as senior aide to U.S. Presidents John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford. And, of course, she starts off that talk talking about how he was involved in the getting off of the gold standard. So it's like the same people that first took us off the gold standard. Go to the website, WTF happened in 1971, where they show in very stark, with very stark evidence, just how the decoupling from the gold standard has caused just massive disparities in terms of amount of time worked versus wages and just infinite number of other problems. It all started happening in 1971. So you have the same family, right, the same bloodline doing this first in 1971 and now continuing on the plan here now 5 decades later. This is how long their plans take to come into fruition, because what they want to do is lure the people of the world into this trap carefully, quietly, slowly, not all at once. That'll scare them. So you want to trap them like an animal. Let's go now to, of course, who else had to make an appearance at this World Summit other than our best friend, Dr. Evil. Here is Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum at the World Government Summit. Let's watch.
The world has to overcome not only the damage done to our economies and our societies by COVID-19.
Not by COVID-19, by you,
also
by the lockdowners.
The repercussions of a dangerous clash between major global powers.
Also caused by you, Western manipulation in Ukraine for years. We'll cover that later.
Truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected. In times of crisis, the role of governments is more important and more relevant than ever. What is also needed is a summit like this one to go beyond crisis management and to look into constructive ways we can build our common future.
Crisis construction, we call it.
Are intrinsically connected to one another, as the profound challenges to mankind, such as climate change, are globally interconnected and require collaborative responses.
Just give your sovereignty over to this foreign worm so he can have total control and establish a worldwide system of total control that is inescapable. It is your destiny.
Screw you. We'll be right back. We'll talk more about it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Great Reset is exactly that. It is a reset. It's not something new that they're suggesting. It is just a new form of what the world was used to for a couple thousand years before America came along and shattered the paradigm, before America created the concept of human rights and codified into law the concept that the average citizen should have a say over the governance of their politics. Before that, it was kings and queens, it was nobility, it was the unquestionable elite and the unwashed masses. And that's what we're returning to. That's what we are resetting to. A world where those at the top were not voted on, they were not elected, they were not chosen by the people, they were self-appointed, and they appointed one another. And they're unquestionable, and they're above everybody else, and they own everything, and everything you have is simply at their behest, right? You aren't going to own anything, but you will be happy because you'll also be drugged. And that's the twist of the Great Reset, is not only will we have a neo-feudal structure around the world with these unelected, self-appointed nobility controlling everything and not deigning to take questions or suggestions from those who are actually affected by their rule. But the twist is that they will have the technology to enforce this permanently, forever, in every strata of life, and have control not only of where you're able to go and what you're able to purchase, but who you're able to talk to, what you're able to say, and eventually, potentially, and what they hope for, what you're actually able to even think or conceive of. Keep you in a state of endless, shallow satisfaction as they rob you blind and eradicate your people. I mean, that's what their goal is, depopulation on a massive scale. So what's left over is a manageable number of subservient classes that can serve them as they pursue their ultimate goal of technological immortality. That's the ultimate goal, and that's what it's all about. And they're pretty much openly acknowledging that now with the World Summit. Now I'm going to go through this thread by Last Refuge on Twitter. Really incredible, and I just got to read the whole thing because he lays it out in excruciating detail exactly how this is happening. First, I want to open up the phone lines. To give us a call, just dial 1-877-789-2539. Taking your calls now at American Journal, 1-877-789-2539. We'll be joined in the third hour by Dave Riley, who is current candidate for the governorship of Idaho. Very excited to speak to him in the first part of next hour. We'll be taking your phone calls throughout the remainder of this show. Here's what Last Refuge says on Twitter, talking about the videos that we just saw, where the World Government Summit 2022 is openly announcing their new world order predicated on the transactional level control of every human being by tracking and manipulating their purchases. Dr. Pippa Malmgren, American economist who served as special advisor for economic policy to George W. Bush, was the one featured in that video. Her father, Harold Malmgren, served as senior aide to U.S. Presidents John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford, and she brags about the fact that he had a part in the moving away of the gold standard, which set the stage for so many of the troubles that we now see. And of course, this is all just the very, very simplistic paradigm of problem, reaction, solution. Right there, when you saw Klaus Schwab speaking, he talked about the supply chain collapse and he blamed it on COVID. It wasn't COVID. It was the measures imposed using COVID as an excuse. COVID didn't shut anything down. You did. These people did. Ukraine, the conflict there, also a consequence of endless meddling in foreign countries by our own State Department and our own non-governmental organizations that move in. And we'll see, because I'll play a video a little bit later of John Kirby talking about the fact that for 8 years we've been training moderate rebels in Ukraine, just like we do everywhere else around the world. And then, of course, he's talking about the move towards China. They always, bring up, well, China's going to be the dominant country in the coming century, as if it's just happening, as if they aren't the ones making this decision, as if this isn't the direct consequence of their own measures that they talk about and announce and try to justify through the media. It's all because of them. It's all their fault. And of course, if you're a doctor looking at this, these are just symptoms. What's the underlying cause? It's globalism. What causes Americans to offshore jobs to foreign countries, that's a globalist ideal. What causes American State Department members to use the American taxpayers' money and the power that we grant them to carry out their machinations overseas? That's globalism. What has caused the entire lockdown, every country in the world to want to build back better? They all use that same statement. They all operate in lockstep, as predicted, as dictated by the Rockefeller Foundation and the World Economic Forum. This is globalism in action. That's what this is. That's the root cause here, and that is what we need to destroy, undo, and fight back against. So the last refuge continues in this talk about the digital currency control system. He says the entry into digital currency needs a digital identity. The Vax Passport provided the baseline entry vehicle for that trial. The gateways, checkpoints, QR codes, scans, and ID authorizations were all part of beta testing that concept. The systems test in Canada solidified the jump from physical gateway checkpoint into the world of electronic financial control. Justin Trudeau beta tested the viability of full control over financial transactions of citizens. We watched that unfold in real time. He says, notice the key phrase right at the beginning of the promotional video above says many prize experiences above possessions. Compare that statement to you will own nothing and be happy. Notice the similarity? Stay with me. When the global trade currency does not need to be pegged to anything to determine value, it is completely fiat. This is the current problem with the global trade and transactions taking place in the U.S. dollar, in U.S. dollars, which arbitrarily lifts the standard of life for Americans while providing no similar benefit to other nations. That view became the underlying motive for Osama bin Laden to target the World Trade Center and the Twin Towers. Wrong, but that's fine. That view is the perspective carried by Barack Obama that lay behind his fundamental change statement. A digital currency allows ultimate control on a global basis by a one world government or Western system of collective governments that can assign value. Look around. There's a race to create it. Two teams, the Western team, the WEF group, in the yellow below in this world map. And then, of course, the other side of that would be the communistic bloc, headed mainly by China. No other mechanism will have as much control over the life of a person than a digital currency that will create a system of transactional credits and debts, perhaps also influenced by your social credit score. The digital currency requires a digital identity in order for appointment to be based on your value to society. How much carbon do you use? This is essentially an extension of the Fabian mindset into the world of financial transactions and monetary evaluations. Fabians, Frankfurt, and later Columbia School, where Obama was trained, believed that some form of socioeconomic tribunal would be needed in order for each citizen to be quantified according to their worth to society. The Chinese social credit score is a variant on that same concept, as is the ESG scores, which are championed by BlackRock, which, of course, took over some of the operations of the Fed during the crisis, the economic crisis, and allowed them to, again, gain greater control. The phrase, you didn't build that, when espoused by former President Obama and current Senator Elizabeth Warren, is also based on this collectivist worldview. Both believe individuals do not succeed independently, but rather gain the ability to grow wealth by using the resources of a larger society, infrastructure, labor, and education. Boiled it down to its most simplistic form, your freedom is a threat to their control, and they can't have it. You're a bad person.